All right, welcome everyone back to another This Week in Crypto stream here on June 14th, 2024. We've got a ton to talk about, and I'm happy to report that we are back after about 2 years on the X space. So our live stream is going simultaneously on both YouTube and X at the same time. If you see any issues with that stream on X, just let us know in the comments. Feel free to leave replies and messages there. We'll try to check them intermittently as we go along here over the next hour to talk about the markets. And in the meantime, we will be going over kind of a general overview of Bitcoin, a little bit of Ethereum, the crowd psychology right now, talk about the curve drama, a little bit about the SEC and Gensler news. Gensler, excuse me, and then also look over the CPI report that caused a bit of a shakeup earlier this week. And with that said, we've got our founder of Santiment, Maxim, here with us today. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, hi everyone. Good. Plenty topics to talk about. Yeah, plenty topics to talk about.
Yeah. Quite a bit. And obviously over the past week, we've had a bit of a downturn here, as you guys should be able to see on the screen, whether you're watching on X or YouTube. A bit of a retrace, almost a 5% overall drop in market cap and about a 20% drop in volume compared to the week prior. So if you've been waiting for prices to retrace, you've got a better opportunity now, of course. But the question is this the dip to buy, or do we have a bit of a ways to go? And as Maxim and I have discussed on many of our live streams in the past, the dip to buy is usually the one where the crowd is no longer optimistic about it. The crowd is actually getting fearful, and they don't want to buy the dip. Therefore, it is a more opportune time for you to buy the dip.
Right.
As backwards as that sounds, markets typically go the opposite direction of the crowd's expectations. So if the crowd believes, unanimously or almost unanimously that this is the dip to buy, we've got a bit more retracing to go. If the crowd is scared and they're actually selling off into this dip, that's the time where it's usually time to bounce, because as Warren Buffett says, you buy when there's blood in the streets. So what we'll try to analyze on this call is whether there is blood and whether we can capitalize on that. So we don't have
there are some
many.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Max.
No, I mean, if we're talking about blood, there are some drops. Yeah, it's obviously.
Oh yeah,
we can see. And I just opened, didn't check today in the morning. One of my favorite at the current market stage. Chart layouts about lending, borrowing rates, liquidations, repayments. Yeah, that's what I mean. Even beyond curve story, which is by itself kind of quite a lot of blood. There are some liquidations, not high yet, and typically these signs are more like for initial set of liquidations, but there is something, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is.
Yeah, curve is a very interesting story with some of the drama going on, and we'll definitely go over that story in a moment. I also wanted to mention Toncoin, which is this lone big green candle here, up 9% over the past week. We were talking right before the call, Maxim, about how there is a bit of a crowd focus shift toward Ton. What's your take on Ton and how it's doing at the moment?
Let's take it on a bit general level, that we have, I think, a bit unexpected rotation. Of course, now everyone will, or many people will say, yeah, we knew it, but majority did not expect it. That it will be the Ton now, which leads the charge. I mean, from bigger coins. And it reminds me a little bit like Solana, the previous. And I do think it's a rotation from Solana meme coins to Ton and click to earn, or whatever you call it, tap to earn narrative. And by all means, this is a topish narrative. Yeah, so meme coins or like NFTs in 21 and meme coins recently, before we dumped was a narrative. Now tap turn, it's all topish signs. So don't make mistake. But of course, turn, like any other coins, when they build the top, it can be volatile and extreme. I put it on my radar. We don't have too much data, especially no on-chain data yet, but from social, did not look topish yet. Too little dominance of the total conversation, but we can get there any day. So now I think maybe the top in the tone will mark the final attempt to pump this market, and then we're ultimately dead. This is how I see now. Yeah, so this rotation from top tier coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, to lower tier like Solana, to even lower tier like Ton, that's all the signs of sells the rallies, so to say, for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a big prediction. We've been talking about that for a few weeks now on these streams. You believe we're kind of in that fifth wave of the usual 5-wave cycle right now, and the most likely scenario is that we actually start to retrace fairly sizably at some point in the near future based on the crowd's current behavior, right?
Yeah. By the way, while we're talking, it's easy to mix up Ton as a Telegram underlying blockchain and not as a tap turn.
Right.
What I meant, I hope I did not mix up. I mean Ton for the whole blockchain, because usually this is how it works. Market maker will push, and some speculator or big money will try to push so that retail will flow in. We don't have on-chain to catch up the moment when retail massively going into Ton, but by observing all the social channels we see, I think we'll be able to see it. It's not yet there, surprisingly. It's been mentioned here and there, but not on a massive scale. Take it for whatever value it is here.
Gotcha. Yeah, Ton and Not being inverse to each other in terms of their letters, but yeah, Ton Coin is the one that is honestly one of the biggest risers of 2024. I mean, the fact that it is now the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th largest market cap in crypto, and I think a year ago it wasn't even the top 100. That really says something about its ascension in the crypto sector this past year. Looking at the price chart, by the way, TON, I mean, it isn't just this past week or the past month. We go back to 1 year ago, as I mentioned. Let's just make this a line chart. 7 days, let's make that a 1-day line. So yeah, I mean, June 13th, 2023 price was at $1.38. It's now at $8.03. And yeah, it's getting some crowd recognition right now, but I think for a lot of this ascension, I mean, especially when it really took off from February to April, I didn't see nearly as much talk about it on our timeline.
The thing was, I think the first pump was more like insiders who knew what's coming in token 2049 and Durov, and also from USDT, from Theta coming on stage and doing some announcement. But mostly Durov coming online. It's, I think, the first big time he came out. And they knew it's coming, so they pumped. But surprisingly, if you see this somewhere, I think it was in April, quite good correction down. Yeah, this one. No, after top, it went down. It was a classic sell the news. They announced, it was not far away behind the top. Or Durov came and announced, and they were here and they would do this and this. And then it went down, and if you plot or if you scroll down, maybe you have social dominance. It spiked before, of course, during announcement, a lot of conversations.
Yeah, social dominance, we have, right. Whoa, I thought we had it. It's down toward the bottom, I believe. Here we go. So social volume here in blue, and then in red, you can see this huge red spike right here.
Yeah,
As
maybe
well as
you can hide social volume because volume, it grows. Oh, no, okay. We have a new feature. If you hold Option and you click on the icon, it hides and unhides. Yes. So the spike, exactly. Yeah. So it was announcement. Actually, it was the previous spike shortly after the. Yeah, exactly. This was announcement, and then it corrected for some time, and of course, it's now easy to see in the past. Good buying moment was when people stopped talking about, and the second big spike, it's I think when Notcoin emerged. So they start going again. It's gearing up. So you can see on the chart. I like the chart. It's simple. Price coming up, dominance coming up. So far so good. So it still looks healthy. Yeah. The moment we start seeing divergences, that price pushing up or stay on the top, and dominance, social dominance, crowd talks move somewhere else, it means there is a new darling on the block. This is where the things will crash, and it will crash like big snow. Makes everything crashes. There will be no exceptions.
yeah, and for those tuning in and kind of trying to figure out what social dominance is and all that, it's essentially the percentage of the overall discussions going on in crypto. So when you see, this yellow line, which I just plotted, it's a 7-day average of social dominance. It would show toward the end of the year, we had somewhere around like 0.3 to 0.4% of all discussions toward being toward Toncoin specifically. And now we're seeing it at close to 2%. That's how much the crowd's interest has really shifted over to Toncoin over time. And it illustrates what Maxim is saying. The crowd is really starting to recognize Toncoin and FOMOing in, really, is what this is showing.
Closed it. If we really want to get a FOMO, from my top of my memory, whenever there was a wave of meme coins, bonk with everything related, book of memes, they went above 5%, 5 between 10%. So anything going above 5% dominance, it's in the hyped area. So this is where I will start looking if I want to. Well, I'm not shorting, but I will do on Sana. If the thing gets above 5% dominance, this is the time to pay very close attention. So far,
and when you say that, by the way, are you talking about like a quick hour above 5%, like a big spike like this?
No. The moment the crowd catched the narrative, the tone is the new Solana. So this is where you make money. Of course, it's spike above 5, 6, 7, come down, and it will be probably oscillating. It might happen like even in the next 3 days easily. I mean, crowd is easy catching up potato when there is nothing else, and there is not so much else. Everything like either stagnating or going down. I think it will flow into tone very soon.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that is pretty accurate based on what I'm seeing. I mean, the rising amount of interest toward Toncoin, coinciding with the price rises, really indicate that the if the FOMO isn't there yet, it's certainly getting there. And speaking of assets that are getting a lot of discussion right now, we can see that Curve has really led the way with Injective and Near close behind. And then you see Bitcoin there at number 4, where it's still getting a lot of discussion itself due to its volatility. But maybe we can discuss Curve for a moment, Maxim, beginning with one of the insights we put out yesterday related to the drama with the founder and the many liquidations that have been going on. Now, one thing we see, if we go to our big post about it right here, we discussed several big assets. You can see the headline caption right here where we talked about the massive amount of anomalies going on. Social dominance going through the roof, just like we saw with Toncoin. There was a big spike yesterday with Curve, whale balance going way down, recovering, and then going down again, as we see now. The amount of holders actually going up, where a lot of large wallets turned into many more smaller wallets, which is why we suddenly see many more non-empty wallets on the platform overall right now. But Maxim, maybe you can give your take on what's going on with the curve drama and how the crowd has kind of influenced the price action.
Well, one thing up front, doesn't matter which metric you look, it's obvious anomaly. It's really every single metric. It's rarely the case. So, and because curve is not dead, far away from it. It works, and the native curve USD is sustained. The way I'm checking the community, we're discussing the way a little bit concerned, not afraid, they're not really afraid of anything, but concerned that curve USD may be depegged because people will start pulling out. No, it survived. So fundamentally, it's safe, and we see huge data anomalies which do reflect liquidations, panics, or some activity. So I think we're much closer to the bottom than to anything else. Yeah, just because this two things fundamental is fine. At least so far, I haven't seen anything which could say curve is not working or the USD is cooked. No. Oh, by the way, you can then later at on one of the chart, if you select curve USD and say market cap, you will see. I don't remember the latest number, but it was curve USD. Yeah, curve USD. Yeah, not curve itself, curve USD.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it CRV? Oh, here we go. CRV USD. Thank you.
Yeah, and then market cap. I don't remember the latest number. And actually, it would be interesting to see. Yeah, maybe it take like 3 months. I don't know when
it's about 140 million.
So you see, nothing changed. I mean, nothing big changed. Maybe some people just moved, or because it was rebalanced going out of curve to curve USD, it is used as collateral also. So and it generates value or like fees, and this fees flows one way or another to curve back. And now distribution is much healthier. So fundamentally, it's good. So the question is, where is the bottom? Because we generally consider the whole market like a kind of very risky position. Okay, tone can pump, but I am assuming we haven't seen the real painful bottom yet. And of course, if market keep going down, curve will not survive. If even it's now undervalued. Yeah.
So, yeah, so this is almost like an inverse to Ton Coin, really, where Ton is seeing lots of FOMO and people trying to jump in.
Yes, I wouldn't say Ton is overvalued yet, but curve is, in my opinion, quite obviously undervalued.
Yeah, so really, there's more panic toward curve than there is FOMO toward Ton.
Exactly, yeah. But market can stay in this mode for quite some time. So don't take my words as any like let's go leverage long. It can be like this for next weeks.
Sure.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, it's really about probability more than anything. We've seen many times where people jump the gun and they say, okay, there's a little FOMO, I better take profit. And then they get mad when prices continue climbing for a few more weeks before it eventually hits that collapse. So just remember, folks, this is just the way we look at the crowd is, in really extreme circumstances where everybody is talking about, the bottom being in or the top being in. Yeah, maybe there's some precise timing you can hit, but more than anything, the best traders I've seen have more of a gradual approach. They don't sell all of their bags all at once or put everything they own into one coin when it looks like a bottom. Do it with dollar cost averaging in mind. Consider the fact that the price trend can go a bit longer than you may expect before that big turnaround is going to occur. So I just want to mention that as well.
And most of the time market does it. In my experience, maybe 10-20% of time I was more or less right on timing. So I don't need to suffer too long, but the other 80% you really think, oh gosh, in the best 3 or 5 days too early. Sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the 2021 all-time high as an example when it got all the way above 68K. after it did that twice. It did it in April 2021 and then again in November 2021, and then it finally corrected. But I remember whales began taking profit. I'll illustrate it right here. Whales began taking profit in like October, and it looked like prices were going to correct any hour, really. And what ended up happening, I'm going to open 2020 to 2022 here. As you can see, this line here, which measures the 10 to 10,000 BTC wallets and how much they're holding at any given time, they topped right here in October 11th or so, maybe 13th. And then they began to go down. But these green bars here, that represents the price. And it kept on going until November 8th before finally correcting itself. So sometimes there's a bit of a lag that can really occur. Same here. They began to take profit all the way back in December, the very end of 2020, December 31st. But about 3.5 months went by before that eventual all-time high hit, before it finally had that big correction. So you may see that indicator that tells you it's time to take profit, and then, bang your head on a while as you see the prices continue to go up. And it works the opposite direction too. So keep in mind, these are gradual indicators that you can rely on without, over compensating too much with your trades. And while we're here, we're seeing some very interesting trends with the overall amount of whale holdings right now. We're still on curves, so let me go ahead and switch to BTC. So overall, Bitcoin's 10 to 10K line took a serious nosedive when the Mt. Gox coins were moved. Billions of dollars were moved by the trustee, and that, of course, led to consolidations. And this dark green line is misleading because it's measuring 10 to 10,000 BTC wallets when a lot of those 10K wallets turned to 100K wallets. So we can't use this for the time being because of the mislead of how the trustee moved those coins. But what we can do is look at this bright green line, which is showing that it's kind of flattened out a bit over the past month or so, or even 2 weeks or so. It was on this big ascension trend really since the beginning of the year, and price, of course, exploded during that time. But right around here at the end of May, we started to flatten out. We were actually going down a tiny bit, and now we're going up a little bit more. So I'm still cautiously optimistic that whales are moving in the right direction, and this trend hasn't broken just yet, but it is starting to flatten out. And over the past 2 weeks or so, the 10 plus BTC wallets have accumulated just 779 Bitcoin, which is practically nothing. If we look at, since the end of 2023 up until the end of May, they accumulated 158,000 BTC. So clearly, we're in that uptrend still, but we need to see, if I draw a quick line, we need to continue to see more of that, something like that, right? So we would expect the trend to be up here, but we're still around here. So
this is correct. Yeah, it's not enough. And there is even more worrisome sign. It's like all big players, those who manage or participate in one way or another in ETFs, they just behave like the most extreme back hodlers, which we know from crypto, making publications, predictions. I don't know, Bitcoin will be 200,000, 1 million, whatever. It's so ridiculous. I mean, if you've been in crypto for a long time, say what? Now they behave like what we've seen in 21, and which we used to, when you see some newcomers coming out and they try to pump their backs for shitcoins. And now the same behavior from supposedly big players, institutionals related to what they now try to earn money with Bitcoin. It is a very bearish sign. Yeah, don't. I've never seen it before. But okay, we didn't have ETF before either. So
Yeah.
we'll have to deal with it. Yes, we'll have to deal with it. There is volatility and goes both ways. Okay. And of course, MicroStrategy again buying for, I don't know, what was it? 500 million? Or they're planning to buy. But okay, this is a mixed sign with MicroStrategy. Sometimes it's a bullish, sometimes bearish, sometimes a no sign. But altogether, when you observe kind of media space and what is being said, discussed, mentioned, you say, wow, that's an interesting. You expect 250,000. Make sure we don't go below 50 first, which is now, I think, more and more likely.
Yeah, so MicroStrategy added on the dip yesterday, somewhere right around here. You can see that the social volume exploded. Similarly, they did so back in late April when there was starting to be a dip here. And oftentimes that's the bottom that people are waiting for. We can see very clearly that happened. There was a big buy about 5 days after that all-time high hit, right around here. It's been almost exactly 3 months since that all-time high back on March 14th. Suddenly we have this big mention of MicroStrategy on March 19th. We get a big temporary bounce, and then the MicroStrategy talk starts to go away until the next one. And then we've had this latest one just yesterday. So I'm very interested to see if it follows that same pattern and we at least see like a very short-term bounce as a result.
Yeah. We'll see.
And on the social trend side, plenty of other big topics coming up. TapSwap is suddenly being talked about a lot. This is related to the TON blockchain. Questions and speculations about TapSwap launching their own tokens on the TON blockchain, with members of the TON community seeking confirmation and discussing their support for TapSwap. Not yet confirmed, but there's anticipation and interest in this potential development. Discussions about the debt and the concept of bad debt within the context of a protocol's liquidation process, and concerns about the responsibility of the protocol in handling bad debt and the impact on liquidators and lenders. Of course, we have the curve discussion. Yes Coin trending due to the upcoming launch on the Telegram Open Network. That's more stuff about TON. Hat here, I don't know as much about this one. Discussions relation to selling options, buying stocks. So this is interesting. There's actually a lot of discussions about the equities markets here on crypto forums right now. And then, as we mentioned at the beginning of the call, Gary Gensler is making announcements about the approval of Ethereum ETFs this summer. So this can give a big jump to the number 2 market cap asset, as well as all the associated ERC20s attached to Ethereum. So that could be some good news that the crowd is optimistic about.
Important eventually, and probably when no one expects it. Yeah. So fundamentally is good, but market sometimes is not related or not connected to fundamentals like completely. It's doing completely irrelevant things. This is the nature of marketing. Fundamentals is one thing. Oh, by the way, number 2 or number 3, number 2, yeah. So negative, even more negative than curve. Is it like this indeed? Oh.
Injected, you mean?
Yeah, cool. That's interesting. I didn't check stable yet today. So we have second candidate for oversold potentially. I just don't know the story behind.
Yeah, as Maxim's mentioning, this meter here shows just how bearish versus bullish the crowd is. And generally, the more bearish it is, the more likely prices go up. If it's really bullish, like we see with Yuan, that means we're more likely to see a correction and prices go down, because prices typically move the opposite direction of the crowd's expectation. So in the case of Injective, there's a bit of a bearish narrative going around due to users expressing concerns about the project's potential downfall, citing reasons such as overvaluation, lack of real-world utility, and potential regulatory issues. That last part might be the most explanatory reason right now. But yeah, it does look like there's quite a bearish narrative going around toward Injective, which has had a pretty good past year or so compared to the rest of the markets. And then Yuan chain is kind of on the other end of the spectrum. People are very bullish toward the asset right now, even though the price, interesting, usually we see prices soaring, and that's why there's so much crowd FOMO. In this case, as you see with the red line, it's mostly moving down over the past week or so. And according to the bullish summary, main reasons to be bullish on Yuan include the implementation of the convert and burn system, which allocates converted Yuan for maximum impact. So this is due to a feature related on the Yuan chain and the daily conversions of fees to Yuan. People seem to be bullish due to this, but I don't know if this is necessarily a sign of huge FOMO. It could just be more discussion related to a specific feature that the crowd has recognized over the past 24 hours or so. And then we've got NEAR on the slightly bullish end, TON, as we discussed at the beginning of the call, they're on the slightly bullish end. Solana itself on the slightly bullish end. Frax is being discussed more than usual. It's very neutral. Bitcoin quite neutral at the moment. TAP slightly bullish. And then BOEM, easily the most bullish according to the crowd on this top 10 list. So there's a huge BOEM bullish narrative going around that you may want to be cautious of if you're longing BOEM at the moment. All right, so a little past the halfway mark on this call. We haven't even really gone over anything on the Bitcoin end other than that brief discussion here about whales. Now, while we're on this chart, I also should mention Tether has seen its 100K to 10 million coin wallets continue to really decline over the past 6 months. We can see that these key whales, key stakeholders, are compared to 6 months ago where they were holding about 36.05% of the supply, they're now down at just 30.65%. So about a 5.5% drop there. We certainly would prefer if the key stakeholders are holding more and more Tether over time as opposed to less and less. This really implies that there's a little less dry powder that these huge key stakeholders have in order to prop up prices more and more. On the better end is USD coin, where there actually has been a pretty serious accumulation going on for almost the past 2 months or so, and they've rebounded quite nicely. Even though over the past 6 months, yeah, they're still down in terms of overall dry powder. So we've got one that doesn't look too good and one that's more on the neutral end in terms of buying power to push prices back up at any given time. Ultimately, though, this bright green line is the one that I really track the most. That's just any wallet holding 10 or more Bitcoin, whether they're on exchanges or non-exchanges, whether it's an actual active wallet or a human or a trading bot, doesn't matter. I think this is an overall pretty good line in terms of the overall health of large wallets, whether it's a shark or a huge whale, and how much influence they will have on future prices. So right now, prices have been moving down for, I guess I could argue, for about 3 to 4 weeks now. And the amount that is held by these 10 plus Bitcoin wallets are pretty neutral. They've kind of flattened out, even though, the trend has been this big up move. We need to see a bit more of an upswing from this bright green line to really feel comfortable about that all-time high break later on this year.
Yeah. By the way, it's an interesting. Before we forget, or let's say, to give another unusual and rare buying signal for Bitcoin, as if you open our internal market intelligence channel, there is a Maxim shared chart for social dominance when people discussing ETFs outflows. Yeah, we can take half a year, or you can keep like this. So the point is behind when crowd is discussing ETF outflows or media, which we catch in our social tool, it's obviously negative, yeah. And every single time so far, it was very good. When you see the spikes, every single time it's a buy. So we can say liquidations on more liquidation DeFi protocols, or obvious stop and crash on tone. More talks about ETF outflows. You can say that's low risk, like low real risk buy. Yeah? It's an interesting, and I think we need to share the link in description to video once we publish it. As there are too many talks, yeah, and you don't really notice it. Which of these are signals or just noise? This is a signal, yeah. This is a
Yeah,
there are quite a few others, but this is a signal which you might have lost if you don't have access to such tools. Yeah.
especially on X and a little bit on Reddit, we see precise times in which X starts to get panicky about Bitcoin moving out of these ETFs. And they try to attribute, I mean, this is how the crowd works. They see the price going down and they go, why is this happening? What would cause this? And then a narrative starts to form that it's because of ETF outflows. And everyone says, oh man, yeah, this is a sign that the big players are getting out of Bitcoin, better jump out now. And as soon as that narrative forms, all of a sudden we get this big bounce. And it's happened 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And I guess arguably this could be a mini 5th time just very recently on the beginning of the week on June 10th. So this is a perfect sign of panic. I love this chart, Maxim, because it really shows the power of the crowd's FUD and how often the crowd gets it wrong when they start to run for the hills and think that this is the big correction that they're about to experience. So I definitely advise people to check out any sort of negative words like this. Obviously, ETF outflows is one of those combinations of words that you can really take advantage of and start to see when the mainstream crowd is starting to get freaked out, and you can capitalize on their panic and make some good buy calls from that.
Yeah, just to mention.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that, Maxim T in our Discord and Maxim on the call here. We should also take a look at some of the on-chain metrics for Bitcoin, because we've been seeing a decline throughout the year, really, in terms of activity on the network. So if we open up just the overall trading volume here in white, it's pretty clear that there's been less and less ever since the beginning of March, just right before that all-time high. Transaction volume moving the same direction. Transaction volume converted to USD in that same direction as well. So less and less on-chain movement, as well as trading movement overall. That's not necessarily a bearish sign, but overall you do want to see increasing amounts of on-chain activity over time. And it doesn't look any better when you look at the amount of unique addresses that are actually interacting on the Bitcoin network. They're moving down quite aggressively over time. And we actually are starting to get back toward those mid-April lows that we saw. This orange trend line here shows that we're only getting about 310,000 or so Bitcoin addresses interacting per day, as opposed to the peak of the year where we were at 914. So we're at about 1/3 of the amount of active addresses now on a 30-day moving average perspective. Circulation looks a little better. It's not quite the dismal drop that we're seeing on the active address side, but regardless, we were seeing about 152,000 Bitcoin on average being moved at least once per day. So this is counting the amount of unique tokens being moved. And now we're sitting at about 49,780 according to the moving trend. So it's quite a drop off right now. And I'm a little concerned about the overall utility. I would just keep an eye on the fact that, there are less and less players. Even the overall amount of discussions in crypto have been moving down, even though the all-time high was only 3 months ago, and we're still only about 5 to 6% below that all-time high right now. And then MVRV, right? So many people wonder, what's the average trading returns for short-term traders and long-term traders? This really is a way of identifying what is a bottom, or sorry, what is a low versus a high when you hear the consistent suggestion that you should buy low and sell high. This actually gives you an answer to that in terms of how you're doing versus the crowd. This is a zero-sum game. And do you want to be buying when the crowd is in pain and selling when the crowd is all celebrating? And this actually gives you a mathematical answer as to how they're doing. So 30-day traders, basically anyone that has been active in the past 30 days, their average returns on their investments are at about negative 2.5%. So that is a good thing if you're bullish, because the crowd is on average down on their investments in the past month. Not extremely, but at least they are below zero. In extreme circumstances like May 1st, you can see they were down almost 13%. Now they're down 2.5%. On the longer term scale, they are up about 25% in terms of any wallet that's been active in the past 365 days. In an extreme case, right before the all-time high hit, they were up a little over 72%, which was a pretty solid sign that we were nearing a top, and that ended up happening about a week later. So eventually we're going to see this blue line drop back below 0%. We haven't seen it below zero in a very long time, but over the span of Bitcoin's life, believe it or not, it spends about an equal amount of time above or below zero, even though it has not been below zero at all over the past year. We have to go all the way back to the painful year of 2022 before we really see the 365-day going below zero. And that was, of course, primarily due to the big crash, the collapse of FTX that really crashed all markets. You can see it got below negative 44% here, and you can see, let me zoom in a little more. So right here was the point in which it would have been ideal to buy Bitcoin, and it was in the midst of everyone really freaked out over the FTX collapse and the Sam Bankman-Fried drama, one of the largest exchanges in the world, all of a sudden going under with users' money getting flushed down with it. So the 30-day MVRV way down at negative 16%, 365-day MVRV way down at negative 45%. This was the time when everyone was in pain, and if you had the guts to really buy during this time, you would have been handsomely rewarded with what is now about a give or take about a 4x rise in Bitcoin's price since that time. So MVRV is a very important indicator to keep an eye on. In terms of funding rate, we'll zoom back into just the past month, and it's more or less flat. It looks like the traders are not taking any chances in either direction, highlighting just the Binance funding rate. It's pretty much just sitting in neutral at the moment. But look for moments where you see a big spike in those margin or leverage trades in terms of longs being opened much more than shorts. That's where you see these spikes, and that would be an indication that we might be dropping soon. Alternatively, if you start seeing a bunch of red, like here, that's where you might see a short-term bounce. But right now it's sitting in neutral. In terms of whales, yeah, not really much going on. They have not been very active. Let's go back to the past 6 months. You can see compared to right before the all-time high, there was this big spike, and it's kind of been going down ever since. So less and less large players interacting on the network, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to drop. It just means they are having less and less influence on all of the ebbs and flows that we've been seeing with Bitcoin as of late. Trust me, when there's volatility, either Bitcoin goes back up to 70K today or drops to 64K today or something, or over the weekend, that's where you'll see whales start to pick up and take advantage of the opportunity when there's a big swing in either direction. In terms of, yeah, I mean, we've already kind of gone over this. Maybe it would be better to look at the overall amount of holders. So this is primarily going to be influenced by those mini wallets more than anything, because they have by far the largest proportion of wallets compared to the whales, which are, as you would expect, relatively small and make up a very tiny piece of the pie of overall wallets on Bitcoin. But this is measuring the overall amount of wallets that have at least a speck of Bitcoin in them. Basically, any wallet over 0 BTC, even if it's just 0.0001 BTC, it's being included on this chart. And you can see there are points in which we start to see a bit of a flattening out period when those small wallets are starting to liquidate and jump out because they're tired of, ranging prices and the volatility is scaring them. And then they start to rise when there's a little bit of FOMO and they think that it's time to buy the dip. Generally speaking, you're actually rooting for this line to be going down. This was a prime example where, the amount of wallets was shrinking and then prices were rising during that time. Really, it's a sign of capitulation, a sign of crowd fear, and prices generally, not always, but generally will respond positively. Because the key stakeholders are seeing all these sell-offs from the mini wallets and basically accumulating their coins. Right now, it's kind of starting to go back up. We saw this flattening period for a few days, but at least over the last couple, it's climbing once again. Another long-term indicator I like to check out is mean dollar invested age. And I'm curious on your take on this, Maxim. We were seeing this big drop for most of the year. And then right around 2 months ago, mid-April, it started to flatten out and actually start to go up. Then we see the Mt. Gox, trustee moving billions of dollars.
It's a bearish sign. It's extremely bearish sign. So no one is worrying, moving their holdings, no one realizing, or very little realizing profits. This is maybe the most bearish sign.
Yeah.
Because this is not how you're supposed to behave. If market is destined to grow, people would be taking profits. We would see more activity here. This doesn't look good.
Yeah, generally, we just want to see this line constantly moving down to justify that we're still in a bull.
Yes, down. Ideally, it's fine when it's flattening out. I mean, there's no problem. But so low level of net realized profit losses because of age consumed, no one is moving old coins. Yeah, it's not a good sign.
Yeah, I find this line most useful when we're in the midst of a rise in crypto. So like here in October of 2020, people are still very worried about COVID during this time. And then you see this huge run up right here. And all of a sudden the yellow line shows that the average age of coins sitting in wallets is dropping significantly, indicating stagnant wallets are becoming active and circulating those coins back into the mainstream crypto trading circles on exchanges primarily. And that is an indication that we are in the midst of a bull run, and it's a justifier that prices can continue to rise. So obviously we're flat right now and prices are kind of ranging as well. But if we start to rise and then you see a fall in mean dollar invested age, that's a great sign that we can continue to climb with high probability. And that's how you can look at this chart more than anything. All right, so we covered some good short, mid, and long-term indicators for Bitcoin. We went over the social trends, talked about a few of the big news stories. Why don't we use these last 10 minutes to address any questions? If there are a few asset requests, if there are not, we can look at a few ourselves that we find interesting right now and go over a few news stories. So
chatting in our stream chat. I've seen some requests. I don't know which one now Max will pick up.
Let's go with the link as we have on-chain data for it, but there were a couple of other ones.
Sure. Yeah, let's check out Chainlink. The Chainlink is currently at the number 15 spot it had a pretty good run. Somewhat recently, it decoupled a little bit from what I saw. Let's go to the last 3 months. So it had a bit of a mini rise just earlier this week, but especially from mid-May up till the end of May, it went on a nice run where it jumped about 40% during this 2-week stretch before having a correction like most altcoins did. But it's maintained itself pretty well, sitting at about $15.20. Obviously, the people who bought it, $17 or $18 are a bit disappointed right now. But that's pretty much the case with every altcoin out there, with the exception of Toncoin and a few meme coins that have gone on some, amazing runs. But overall, the amount of trading volume has dropped off. Transaction volume's been kind of in neutral. The overall network, I see a bit of a mini rise here in terms of circulation. Even today, there's a bit of a circulation spike, and often these circulation spikes, as we can see, coincide with price reversals. So there is a bit of an argument that we could see a bit of a bounce just in the past 24 hours that this spike happened. So see how the rest of today goes on the weekend.
By the way, did you add to chart layout our new metric whales holdings?
Yeah, not on this main chart, but let's take a look at that really quick. So if I add whale,
not another one, not exchange.
The non-exchange one. Yeah, I was going to do. All right, so this is measuring. Let's make sure to add the price so we can get some context.
And hide the first one. Exchanges removed. Yeah.
Sure. So this is looking at just the non-exchange whale balance. And we have an algorithm that kind of designates what a whale address is, depending on what the market cap is of that respective asset. So in this case, looking at addresses that can be deemed whales, we see this huge drop off on June 6th. And then they accumulate back quickly on the 7th. So this could have just been market.
Maybe in order to see it, maybe you select last 6 or 9 months, and then you and then you take away this drop 6 days ago because it doesn't let you see the trend.
Sure.
No. I mean, it was before. Exactly, and you remove so that we don't see this. Yeah.
From like right here?
No, end date is the 5th of June.
Oh, I see. Right before the drop. Yeah. Okay, so this is pretty much since the beginning of 2024. And they've been on quite a decline. If I hold down shift here and I go toward right before that drop off, they were already dropping about 8% of their holdings. This is a bit of a concern.
Yes. That's what I wanted to see. Are they have they been accumulating or pushing or trying to push price up from the last bottom? Doesn't look like it. There was a small attempt in the left part of the chart. I don't see the dates. What are these dates?
Sure.
When they tried.
So beginning of February till late February.
Yeah, they tried once, but then they just the trend generally continued down.
Yeah,
so that's a good sign. Because I mean, it's who is pushing prices? Whales. Yeah.
Right.
They're not doing it yet with Chainlink.
Yeah,
so
and right
maybe
above it.
Yeah, in that case, if whales are not pushing it up, what we might see is another good setup would be. I don't know how can you get liquidation and panic in Chainlink. It's too established. I mean, it's too dominant on the market. I don't know. Def activity, how's def activity? Let's see. Oil, yeah, let's see. Are they building anything? Okay, that looks not bad. That looks actually quite good. So they're very active. Maybe I know they have even one of the team members is here, my neighbor here. Quite a big team Okay, so def activity is good. Oh, and what we can try, I'm trying to think from behavior point of view, small hodlers, maybe select groups holding up to $100. If we don't see exponential growth, then maybe it's not bad too.
So up to $100, that would basically be anything 10 or below. So if we just go 0 to 10 coins, and we'll isolate that, make it a color we can actually see, like that. And then we'll look at anything 10 or above. And we'll just split those groups into two. Interesting. So the 10 or above link holders hold
No,
almost
a few huge addresses. No, just see small hodlers. This is the interesting ones.
Okay, so 0 to 10.
Okay. That's not bad. There've been. I don't see the time range. What is the time range you're seeing now?
3 months. 3 months.
Okay.
We go back to the past year.
I'm surprised. Okay. There've been now you see in the chart my point. My point was, if the small hodlers actively buying, it's never a really good sign. They've been doing it. Now they've been decreasing their holdings.
Right.
I assume to some meme coins or not coins or ton coins, something more fancy, chasing the next big thing. So if we see more of it, drop, we might be forming a good buying pattern. Yeah. Ideally, of course, supported by whales, but they are not seem to be active. So we need to wait till retail completely lost interest, or to big degree lost interest. Then you can say the risk is off.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes
maybe
sense.
Like planning too fast, but if you're on the stream frequently, you know this way of thinking.
And I like to look at price versus Bitcoin when it comes to most altcoins too. When you're really trying to find those correlations between, a particular tier and how much they've impact the price. If you're just looking at the overall price, it can sometimes just be influenced by how much Bitcoin is going up and down. But when you look at it from this perspective, when the mainstream crowd is really FOMOing, kind of like right here, the slant is going up higher than almost any other point. You can see the price versus Bitcoin is actually going down. But starting here, almost precisely when there was a bottom, you can see that the small wallets are starting to drop in terms of the amount of supply. Bitcoin or Chainlink has actually gone up mostly, even though it had this drop along with most other altcoins in the past week. I think that this yellow line, any wallet holding 10 or less Chainlink, they're kind of an inverse toward how Chainlink performs. So I think there's some good alpha here. If you're into Chainlink, which I know many of you watching this are, keep an eye on how they're doing in relation to how the whales are doing. And this could end up being a pretty good counter indicator for you.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whales not really too active. Go ahead. Sorry, Maxim.
Yeah. No. I'm just saying that so many metrics that we could spend easily 15 minutes or more, and even be too soon finalize the call for today.
Yeah, I know we've got to wrap up. So I'm glad we got to look at one altcoin here. Thank you for the recommendation of checking out Chainlink, whoever asked for it. Overall, folks, it looks like we're in some dicey waters right now. The crowd is kind of not knowing what to do. We are arguably in the 5th wave of that 5-wave cycle right now. And really, we just need to keep in mind the fact that long-term Bitcoin holders are still very much up, and there could be a little bit of pain coming up. And once you see that extreme pain, that's where you can really confidently buy. So we'll, of course, keep you posted on all of our socials. Keep track of our timeline on X, Telegram, even LinkedIn, and, of course, our Insights page, insights.santiment.net, for many more news stories coming out today and going into next week. So on behalf of Maxim and the entire Santiment team, Thanks so much for watching, whether you did so on YouTube or X. Your support is greatly appreciated as we continue to grow and spread our metrics across the crypto community. Have a great weekend in the meantime, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for having me. Good
Bye,
luck,
guys.
everyone. Need some luck. Okay. Bye-bye.